everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. I'm out in the torch shop, gonna make another marble. Gonna start out making a cane. It's a box-shaped cane. I made one yesterday to try it out. Gonna make another one today. See if it works better than the first one I did. So, a little housekeeping before we get too far. I need to pull out a little bit more red. I got a little short piece of red here that I need a handle on. And I like to use these little skinnier 3mm pieces to be a handle for pulling out a stringer. I'm going to use this to coat the outside of the 10mm rod that I'm going to start with to make this cane. I need this to be kind of a thicker piece as far as stringers go. Okay, hopefully that cools off by the time I want to grab it. Turn that off. Alright, we're going to switch overhead. So I've got this other, this is the Sublime that I'm going to use in the marble when I do my first, I'm going to do a plunge. And I've got it, it's already coated with some gold, but I'm going to just throw down some more just because it's... Ooh, did I bump my valve here? Okay. I'm going to warm this up a little bit. Just to kind of show you what it takes to throw down a little fuming. So this is going to be a little plunge piece that we'll use in a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to start out with this 10mm piece of clear. I'm going to get all my stuff organized here. I'm going to warm this up. Clear isn't always very easy to tell when it's getting warm, except that it starts wobbling around. So I doubt this is going to have much of any effect, but I'm going to do some fuming, some silver on this before I put down the red color. So this may create a base that does something, I don't know. Okay, now we'll take this red that we pulled out. There. I'll take that little handle off, but it's okay. So I'm trying to just get a thin, kind of thin layer of red. Some steps like this, you wish you could just kind of dip this into a nice coating of red, but it's the only way I know to get a thin red layer. And again, I'm kind of just, with my left arm, I'm kind of moving this glass into position. And the stringer in the right hand, we're not doing very much motion. I always kind of wind up having a bit of an arc for some reason at the beginning of these lines. Okay, hopefully that is kind of fully coated. Now we want to bake this in. Handle, grab a hold of this end. Alright, now we're going to build up 4 different quadrants of clear on top of this red. But before we do that, we might as well use some fuming. So we're going to do silver. And it's going to go over the entire thing, but I'm focusing on just 2 sides. So then, maintain our positioning of where we put the silver. Okay, and then we're going to go 180. Okay. Now, on these other sides, I'm going to put down gold fume. And it's okay, it can be on top of the silver fume, but you can also burn out some of the silver. I don't know if it's going to burn out too easily. We're going to want this clear to melt in anyway, so we can be fairly aggressive with this. Oops. I'm not really too concerned whether that burned out the silver or not. I don't think it will. That silver was pretty heavy. But we are going to switch to gold. A lot of people like to put silver down first and the gold will stick better. So by the time this cane gets all pulled out, twisted up, this fuming, I don't know if it's going to really show the two different fume concoctions to get contrasting stripes in the cane, but we'll see. So again, we want to run clear down these sides, trap that gold. Okay. And again, we can burn out gold where we didn't want it. Now, the other key thing to this box cane design, as you see, it's not fully covered with clear. And that is intentional. Just want to draw a little thinner in the middle here. I'm not doing a very good job of compressing this, but so I'm trying to get this clear to melt in. And I don't particularly want to twist it at this point or pull it out. I want to just kind of keep my thick cane to start with. Okay, sometimes the glass just seems to have a mind of its own. It's my excuse for not being able to keep this under control. Can't be my fault. Alright, close enough. The next step, add more clear. I want this really to be built up with quite a lot of clear. So we're just going to try and lay this down thick. It's going to be a little messy at this stage because it's going to get all pulled out and twisted, so any variances here doesn't really make much difference. So yesterday I did this same kind of build with green, experimental green, and it worked out pretty well, but that stuff does make me a little nervous using it inside a marble. Alright, this is really looking like a big mess. Oops, I shouldn't have touched it with a hot rod. Kind of doing this a little messy just to kind of show. It's like, you're not trying to win any beauty contest at this phase. Just trying to get the glass where you want it. So we're going to melt it in. But you start getting the sense of what's going on here. It's headed towards kind of a square box shape. But of course, to make a cane, it winds up being actually round. Before we get twisting it out. Did you see those areas that did not get covered with clear glass? Those are going to kind of bloom out to the edges. Or become the edges, I don't know. I don't think about that, but they'll kind of rising up to the surface. So the clear core that we started with is just a base to form things on. It doesn't really play much part in the finished cane. It just gives it bulk. Okay, well, at this point we can start getting a little twist going on. So when I do twisted canes like this, I like to get a gentle twist going in its large diameter stage, because you can see all these height differences. You know, it's got a lot of texture going on the outside, and we want to get that all melted down smooth before we start pulling and twisting this out. So this is basically just kind of like a ribbon cane, only kind of like a combination of two ribbons together. So there's no flat ribbon inside here. It's like a box inside. And I used a red base and I used this gold and silver fuming to kind of get some more interest out of it. But this obviously could just be done with just a straight color, or even be two different colors. Okay. Now I think before I pull this out, I'm going to lose this 10mm rod. But yeah, you can start to see this contrast between the gold fumed area and the silver fumed area. And of course on red base, it won't be very visible until after it goes through the kiln cycle and cools down to room temperature. That red's going to be just a dark, just the black. Okay, got a handle attached. We can start working our way down through twisting this out. So just being really gentle with pulling that taper down to a thinner section. And now I need to sort of visualize how thick I want this cane to be. I want it to be fairly thick and chunky. So pulling cane out at this phase like this is, I don't know, I've just done it a lot of times, is partly it's just the feel of the glass gets to a certain level of tension. And there's just this odd rotation that both hands are rotating, but the left hand is rotating a little bit more. And it goes in pulses sometimes where it rotates a bunch. And it gets out here towards the end of my arms can be out here comfortably, and sometimes I have to switch and just start focusing and rotating my right hand, and the end will always be kind of a little messy. Drag this out, cut that off. Now I'll come back and cut this section and come back into it a little bit to try and get to a more consistent part of the cane, and there we go. Okay, that is our prep work. It's going on our base rod here. Okay, get this end cleaned up, and we can start building up our first initial gather. Now, for some reason, I've been getting my marbles going bigger and bigger lately. So, see if I can keep this one under control. So I want it to tip up and start falling back on itself. And then I'm going to go after this kind of zone in the shoulder. Peel some of this glass back. Every time I do that, I'm kind of introducing some other stuff farther back up the rod. So this may seem kind of chaotic here. Kind of is. But if you want the cleanest glass in the end, you really got to get rid of all this stuff that shows up. You can see it in the flame. It kind of glows different in the fire. And of course, any impurities on the surface tend to glow bright. Bubbles glow bright. It's a little hard to do with the big flame there going because it's hot. These tweezers aren't that long. Go down to a smaller flame, that's just a little easier to push some of this out. Okay, now we got some nice section of really clean glass. So, before we do our plunge, shoot, I gotta let this get stable. So I'm going to plunge it with this Sublime glass that I coated with some gold. but the end of this has got this melted off tip, and that's not the look I want going into this plunge. So what do we do about that? We take our little tile nippers. These are just really good little round tile nippers. Just come up to that end. It has to be big enough because these nippers don't close all the way down completely. It has to be thick enough to engage those nippers. So we want our plunge piece to be warm, but not hot. And kind of flame polish that end a little bit where it was cut. So one way of getting glass warm but not hot is just get it close to the flame. There's a lot of radiated heat. It'll warm up pretty good without getting it into the fire at all. So, trying to get the right heat base here. At this end to get some good heat going. But when we push this piece in, it has some place to move. Okay, controlled chaos, here it comes. So I'm going to drop down out of the fire. I don't want this in the flame when I'm doing this. So it's somewhat like doing a mushroom, but by cutting that end off, for one, that kind of changes up the geometry, and then you can look down inside the plunge piece. So it's kind of like putting a little mushroom in there. And then I want to start bringing this angle in. And then we can kind of clean up this tail that's going to wander down into the bottom. Okay, that's our little plunge piece inside the middle. Got a little bit more mushroomed out than I like, but Okay, now this is where we're going to apply this box cane that we built. So we'll start out with our small flame here. And we're going to kick on the big fire here to get this to wrap on here. So when we're doing this kind of a deal, we want to keep our distance. We don't want to collide these rows. And I'm trying to put this cane down kind of at its full diameter, not drawing it out to make it thinner. Come down here to the end, pull that off. Now this part is a little weird because trying to get this to melt in, you really want that base glass to get hot, and it's kind of hard to do. Because those box cane loops on there, they kind of deflect the flame. They kind of keep the flame off of the interior clear. So it kind of impedes the process getting these to melt together. But this is a phase you definitely want the glass to just do its thing, and you don't want to use any tooling or any coercion here, just flame, rotation. It's a little out of control. Step aside for a moment. Back into the fire. Trying to get an angle to get that heat to penetrate to the underlying clear. Now we're getting there. So then we can come in here and get a little bit of gentle coaxing and get our cone to come back to life. once the surface is kind of flattened out, then that cane is really going to be pretty pronounced on the inside of the marble, so manipulating the outside is not quite as sketchy. I'm trying to get this point to get pointy again. It seems like with the graphite paddle that you can't really pull the glass because graphite's very slippery on hot glass, but you can tweak things. Yeah, once we get it pretty close, then of course we'll just come in here and pull some of this out. Okay, kind of sharpen our point. And next phase. Going to do some background color frit. And do some contrast here. We got some blue spruce. Okay, so that base got cooled down a long ways down. So when we want this frit to stick, so we got to heat this surface up. So it's another timing kind of thing. You want to get in the heat here long enough to get that surface hot enough to pick up the frit. But we really don't need to mess with the base heat. That will work as our color background. Letting that frit kind of bead up on its own and make that open lattice. That's pretty well smoothed out. Give it a little bit of marver. And let that settle for the next phase. Phase, we're going to back that with black. So this one worked pretty good. That frit coated the entire cone area. Sometimes this upper edge isn't hot enough to really pick up a lot of frit, and I have to go back and kind of fiddle around adding some more. We've got a good amount of heat to pick up frit on this particular construction. Trying to get the right flame setting for putting on a stringer like this. Maybe a little tricky. You want enough heat to get it rolling quickly, but not so much heat you're throwing out to distort the base glass. Okay, come back for another pass, run down these valleys. At this point the flame is deflected more by all these ridges, so you're not really impinging much heat into the underlying layer. I often feel like this is kind of highway hypnosis running down running down the lane here. Okay, now I can apply some heat and pressure to seal that in. All right. Making progress. Now this back side, I think we'll do a little Gold fume on here. I can't see where the gold is. So doing that fuming on that backing glass, backing layer, may or may not really result in much effect on the outside. But usually you get a little peak inside there. Well, how you all doing today? We got a good day going on. Enjoying some cooler weather, but hasn't been really all that as cold as they keep showing colder temperatures in the forecast, and then it doesn't happen. And we've had a few snowflakes coming down, but no snow on the ground. So people are not having any trouble getting around here right now. And we were talking to Mom and Dad over in Bozeman, and they had 10-degree weather and 6 inches of snow on the ground, and that's Bozeman. We are here in the banana belt of Valley County. I'll keep that as a punty. I don't want to burn up that stick. But I hope you all are doing okay. Thanks for checking us out. If you're watching this video right now, we really appreciate it. Okay, after that first layer kind of seal things in and establish a clear base, I'm going to push these edges together. So we don't need any thickness of glass up here on the rim. Excuse me. a little bit more here. Okay, throw some heat at it, get this melted in. So I'm going to do this little trick here. It seems like the geometry is working to keep that end and drop this down angle and let that clear glass flow around and kind of pulls out that point. See that pulls out this little sharp point. And then we'll focus more on this rim and kind of let the whole thing fall back. Okay. Now we're going to put on our back lines of color. Check my directions here, see if I got this going right. My anatomy of a Vortex marble mug. It's a graphic I got on the shirt too. Okay, we have got some deep blue. I think that's what this one is. And I got confused last week, but mint. And this is double amber. Try this out, see how we do with these colors. So we just kind of draw this first line on, imagining giving ourselves enough room for 2 more lines in between. And perhaps keeping them a little open so they're not all just completely stacked together. Okay. We had a, I'm not sure if I mentioned this the other day or not, but we had a real loud screechy noise right before we turned the lights out at night in the house, and thought it might have been a deer stuck in the fence or something or other. Maybe you heard the story. But after reflection, I got a feeling it might have been a screech owl either on the roof of the house or in a tree right nearby. It was really loud, and it was not the normal call that I'm used to hearing from a screech owl. And we've had them sometimes, they'll sit on top of our power pole or someplace right around, call to each other. It's funny when you hear noises, they bump in the dark and you don't know what the heck it is. This stringer is kind of looks like a Harry Potter wand or something. It's pretty wiggly wobbly. When I pull out some of these amber purple colors, I like to kind of get them up to temperature and burn out that haze. It kind of rehazes again when you apply it, but it has to get pretty sloppy molten before it drops the haze. So I don't know if that helps or not in this application, but general rule, it's amber purple striking colors you want. Superheated. And then it can cycle through temperatures to develop the color, but at some point it needs to be heated all the way up. I hear a delivery truck. It's funny, it doesn't seem to pick it up on the recording at all, but something came rumbling in. Sometimes we need to drop down to a smaller flame and chase down these lines. Okay, got all that amber purple burned out. Now whatever it does from this point on, I can't get too worried about it. I can't restrike it like that. That's the only time I'm going to get it that hot. It's already got the marble heated up and out of shape as it is. So before we can rake, we have to get this core stable. Didn't quite wait long enough for that to settle down. It's slumping all over the place, but once you get started, just gotta roll with it. When you get way off center like that, it's hard to figure out where the true center on the back is, so it sometimes gets misplaced. Okay, that's pretty hot and crazy. Get this to settle down before we can move along. Starting out this lens with it actually constricted down a little bit. It transitions from the raw glass rod to the marble. need to kind of heat that into that crevice. Ooh, it's getting toasty here. Diameter really opened up. If you saw that last little section in time lapse, you'd see that rim where the color meets the clear just expanded like crazy in this last little condensing of the glass. Add more glass here to the end. So I'm going to tear off some glass on this clear lens side, so I want to build it up a little bit more than it needs. So I'm going to lose some. Alright. Nice to finally get that bulky rod off of there. Well, I'm excited to see how this one turns out. The box cane that I'm playing around with, it's a little more effort goes into making it than just like a simple ribbon cane. And I'm hoping it's something different enough that distinguishes it. Sometimes I tear stuff off and leave a trail of metal off the tweezers. It adds a mess instead of gets rid of a mess. Okay, trying to throw enough heat in there to get that front lens to start collapsing down. Egg shape right now. try to run that L marver and get that initial circumference laid out. Come into this mold at kind of a 45 and yeah, I thought I said I was going to make this a little smaller, but once again I'm pushing larger size. Adding that relatively thick box cane on there added quite a bit of bulk to it. So that initial cone could have been quite a bit smaller, I think. But still, there's the relative size and geometry of building these things up. So you kind of want a certain scale in order for some of these elements to work. Everything has to scale separately. Okay. I'm going to let that sit for a moment. Crazy flame. Well, I can see at least I got the silver and gold alternating effect. It's going to be noticeable. Oh, come here, there's my quick switch. Quick switch moves around a little bit down there. It always seems like it's taking a long time to get this heat to soak in and get things to move. So put that in the old kind of level and leave a little bump out on the end. And get that melt in on its own, at least somewhat. Okay, yeah, I'll kind of do that again, start level, but I'm going to bring it up. Music screen bombed out, bounced to another screen, but it's alright. It's getting there. A little bit more force. The perimeter is still not coming together on the perimeter. So close. Okay, round enough to move on, so we need to sit here in the mold long enough to get this to really cool down in the core. And then we're going to flash this back side with some heat. So we're just doing a surface heat. Get out of the heat before it gets too far into the core. We're getting close, my friends. I'm getting hungry. It must be about break time. Okay, now we gotta dig out the remnants of that punchy. Oh, that's hot. See one little trying to get an even heat, kind of a medium penetration. So sometimes I go back and do one more run in the marble mold, but I think this one's looking pretty good. On the back side, got some purple going on. Kind of hard to see. I think that's going to be good. Okay, now we're going to have to cool down and get below the glowy stage. A little bit of a pocket there. Give it a good heat and get that to all level out. It's looking pretty good. Awesome sauce. That's another excellent marble. Headed to a lucky owner next week. Okay, gang. We're killing it goes. Thank you so much for tuning in. Y'all have a great day. Take care. Be kind to everybody. It matters. See you next time.